Okay, I would like to call to order the scheduled meeting of the Community Preservation Committee. As a preliminary matter, my name is Ken Bogrand, and permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on agenda are present can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Maria Zoda,
Here.
Joe Topham,
Here.
Linda Williams,
Here.
John Trudell,
Here.
Ken Bogrand. Here. Staff, Glenna,
Here.
Kathy,
Here.
and anticipated speaker, Jason.
Yes, here.
Okay, good morning. This open meeting of the Community Preservation Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we are advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical locations. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to encourage to participate remotely. We're moving forward with respect to that, and so therefore everything will be done by voice, and every vote will be done by roll call. Therefore, I would like to turn to the first item on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as circulated?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor as I call your name, Maria Zoda,
Yes.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
John Trudell,
Aye.
Ken Bogrand. The next item on the agenda are the approval of the minutes which have been circulated. Are there any changes, corrections to the minutes? And if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Maria Zoda,
Aye.
Joe Topham,
Aye.
Linda Williams,
Aye.
John Trudell,
Aye.
Ken Bogrand. It passes unanimously. There are fund requisitions relative to the two items before we get to the old business. The first one is the fund requisition to ratify the previous payments made to the Interfaith Council as indicated in items A and B. Is there a motion to ratify those payments previously made while we were unable to meet?
So moved.
Pardon me, Ken?
Second.
I
Yes.
believe that that's a ratification from our last meeting.
Oh, okay.
We have 4 fund requisitions from Affordable Housing Trust Fund for this meeting.
Hold on a second. We had some stuff last meeting that was less than 48 hours in advance that had to be on this agenda in order to ratify the votes we took last month. They're not on the agenda. Those votes last month are those things that were less than 48 hours because we had that discussion, and they have to be ratified at the next meeting. You got to remember to put them on the next meeting.
The agenda
Were we
was.
waiting on a comment from Dawn on one of those?
No, the Dawn's thing is dealt with in the other business with respect to Jason's.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm
Great.
just talking about the 2 things that we had, 2 or 3 things we had last meeting
Right.
that were on there, after we'd already posted the 48-hour meeting. And those things have to be on the following meeting to ratify the votes we took back then because they were less than 48 hours. That's required by law. So
Right,
they're not on this agenda, so we can't ratify them, but we got to ratify them at the June meeting. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, I will, but that was those were additions that were updated before the meeting, and I understand it was before the 48 hours.
We already ascertained that.
I understand that, We did accept the agenda with the additions at our last meeting.
Correct, but they have to be put back on the following meeting to ratify the votes you took at the less than 48 hours. So just put them on the next meeting. I
Well,
was very clear about that.
Okay,
So we move
that will
forward with
be,
these
that will
guys.
be on the agenda for the, wait, those 3 items will be on the agenda for the
Okay.
June meeting. Can we have a vote to approve the items that are appropriate on the agenda for this meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Maria,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ken? Aye. All right, the next item on the agenda then is we've invited Jason to come and make a presentation to us about the proposal of how she wants to extend the interpretation of the original grant many years ago to the current situation. Is that correct, Jason?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so would you take us through your understanding of the original grant and your proposal with respect to why that should now be, why what you're requesting now falls within the scope of the
Okay.
original grant?
Okay. Well, when it is quite old, but when we applied for this funding, there were different components to it. And one of the components was for scanning the Mariah Mitchell Association archives. At the time, I had some qualms about some of the ways that scanning was being done. I started working with a group of individuals actually who came to me, and it was with the Schlesinger Library at Harvard and multiple other organizations and museums that wanted to try and start up a program to scan the papers of female scientists, which is very important because it's not available. And it was would have been in conjunction with the grant that I received from all of you, but adding to that. And so we came together as a group and wrote a proposal for a federal grant that would have allowed probably about, I think it was the papers probably in the area of 15 to 20 different female scientists, including Annie Jump Cannon, to have those papers scanned. The first round, we were not successful, which I was really surprised by since it was Yale and the Schlesinger Library. But they encouraged us to apply again, and we did. And we didn't get the funding again. I was really surprised by that. But in that time, during that all that going on, technology was starting to finally catch up with what I was trying to do, which meant I didn't have to individually scan each actual paper with a proper scanner, which was a good thing because that can harm the papers. But there are different kinds of lighting that they had developed. In any case, they had developed the scanning of microfilm to the extent that we could take the microfilm that we had from the 1970s at the MMA, and I was able to scan that rather than scanning the papers. So we saved an enormous amount of money. I'm happy to say that the scanning was finished in August of the microfilm, and I have already sent portions of the scanned microfilm to several researchers who could not come to Nantucket. It saves me because I don't have to transcribe for them, but it also saves them trying to find money and grants to get to Nantucket to stay for a few days to go through Mariah's papers. So it's been a boom, and it's thanks to the funding you provided us that I was able to do that. What I'd like to do with the remainder of the money in that pot, about $32,000, is I'd like to see if you would be willing to let us extend the use of it into another section of the MMA archives, which would include our herbarium. So it's not written word, it's plant matter. And it's plant matter that actually dates into the 1870s. Some of it collected by Mariah and her family members. And it's all from Nantucket. So it's about 10,000 specimens that date to about 1878. And they are an incredibly important archive for not just the MMA in Nantucket, but for researchers and scientists as well. We do have people who come to the island to use it, but there's a lot of people who cannot get here. And there's a growing movement to get plant specimens up online and available around the world, because we do get requests, but again, it's hard for them to access Nantucket. So I would like to see if you would be willing to let us use this. It's still within the archive, but it's going to be plants. What we would do is it covers most of the costs that we would need to buy the photographic equipment we need to take images. And then the time to have potentially our collections manager and maybe someone else be working on it. It is also obviously contingent on COVID-19 and all that because we can't all work together. But this archive is used by the land council, by the Conservation Foundation, and we continue to add to it. So it's an active catalog, and it's really wonderful tool for letting people learn about the plants that were here, the plants that are no longer here, and also where they were found across the island, because they're probably about 18 inches or so in height. They're either usually glued, but often cut pieces of paper are cut, and the plant is inserted into them. I wish I had an image of it to show you. And it details when it was cut, where it was cut from, how it was found, and what shape. And also, there's when it's flowering, when it's in. So it's important. We've also been able to kind of share pieces of those plants that scientists can then study and also potentially replicate. So the plants that are endangered, we have all of these plants. And so hopefully at some point, some of those pieces can be used to reintroduce those plants to the island and other places where they're found that they were native to, but are now lost. So if you would be willing to let us use this, continue to use it for the archive, it's just a different part of the archive, we would appreciate it, because we think it is an important, it's important for not just the MMA, but it's important for Nantucket as well as nationally.
This is Ken. In your letter, you indicated that that it would be the original permit provided for the ability to use the funds towards conservation of historic paint and assessment by a structural engineer and scanning of the Mariah Mitchell archives. So you've been talking about scanning the Mariah Mitchell archives.
Yes.
In your letter, you also talked about wanting to use the funds with respect to the envelope of the building. Now, my reading of the original grant doesn't include, that wouldn't be included within the scope of the original grant, but certainly the scanning of the Mariah Mitchell archives, as you outlined, would be within the scope of that original grant. So are you just asking for the use of the funds towards the conservation of the Mariah Mitchell archives, as opposed to the letter, which in fact was asking for it also be used relative to the restoration of the building?
It would just be for the archives. I believe I sent you 2 different letters, and one, you had said you did not think that what I was asking for would fit under that. So that I came back and said, because I had forgotten about the archive part, and that's why I'm asking you now if you would be willing to let us use it for the archive part. The envelope is not part of this.
And how much of the funds would be required? Or are you asking for the balance of it?
The balance of it. I just don't know. It just depends on the pricing on things change. So the camera and the setup, it changes, over time. So at this point, we would use probably all of that money that get us all the equipment and then get us started on a chunk of photographing and digitally capturing the images of the herbarium archive.
Okay, and you understand that you have to spend the money first, and then you come to us to get reimbursed.
Yes.
Okay. What's the any questions from the committee relative to the request and how the committee feels relative to that?
I don't have any problem with it.
I have a question. It's my understanding the way this is that, because I know we're not supposed to go from one fiscal year to the other, so that we're still talking about 2005 fiscal monies.
That's correct.
And I agree with you, Ken, that if it's the plants and it's still scanning, that it seems to work. Definitely not anything to do with restoration of the building. I don't know. I guess it would work.
John and Joe?
I think this is excellent. I think Jason has come up with a really good idea of trying to save some of this important history of Nantucket. So I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, I'm in favor as well. I think it's a natural progression from 2005 to the way that archives were saved, and we're actually going through with the technology that's present today. So it is saving the archives, and just because it's a plant-based, the modern technology is helping to preserve that with the scanning. And I agree. I think it's worthwhile.
Okay, well then, having heard that discussion, I would entertain a motion to accede to the request that the funds from the allocation in 2005 be utilized with respect to the scanning of the Mariah Mitchell archives as outlined by the presentation today.
I'll make that motion.
John made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Joe, a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
I think they are. Do they hear?
Kathy?
Can you hear Linda?
Yes.
She's
I heard
making
Linda.
the motion and seconding, and she doesn't think she was heard.
No. Well, John made the motion, and Joe, I heard John make the motion. I heard Joe second the motion. I heard Linda's voice, but I heard the other two first. So I'm recognizing those as the people who have made the motion and the second.
I know.
I just want to make sure I'm being heard here.
You are.
You were heard first in terms of saying that you were in favor
No
of this, and I then went and talked to the other people. All those in favor now. Maria,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ken. That is unanimous. Are there any other items that hey, Jason? I just want to say that the work that you have done with respect to the preservation of Mariah Mitchell and the Coffin House, I think has been really fantastic. As a community, we are very lucky and fortunate to have
Thank you.
and the role that you are in terms of doing what you're doing to, in fact, preserve our history, but also bring it back to life. So.
Thank you, Ken. I really appreciate that. It makes me want to cry. Thank you. It's very much my passion, and you all, the CPC, we could not have done the work that we, Mariah Mitchell Association, we could not have done the work that we've done at the Coffin School without your support and your understanding, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate your willingness to work with us. And I apologize for the interruption of my 6-year-old who still is with Zoom. So with that, I will keep you abreast of what happens with this project, and I wish you all well and safety. I will leave the meeting now so he no longer interrupts us.
Well, no, it makes for an entertaining morning.
All right, want to say hello? You can say hello.
Hi.
Hi, Nolan.
Thank you all very much. I will leave you now, and be healthy and safe.
You
You as
too.
well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are there any other matters that anyone would like to bring up before the committee today?
Are we still kind of up in the air about the annual meeting?
Well, the thing is what we're trying to do is we've said we're going to do it in August.
August.
Right. And it may have to be virtual, but it depends on the number of people that the governor says can get together. If it goes to a gathering of up to 50 people, we probably could be able to hold it, but we couldn't hold it in the afternoon. We'd have to hold it at a place where there can be sufficient distancing for the people to come. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, sir. All right.
All right. If there is nothing else that is to come before the meeting, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
In favor, Maria?
Oh, yes. Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Glenna and Kathy and Andrew, thank you very much for pulling all this stuff together. Kathy, thank you for coming in and getting all of this stuff into Munis and be able to have us function almost as normal as is possible under these weird circumstances.
Yeah.
Good morning.
So thanks again for everything. And hopefully we might be able to get together physically next month, but if not, we will still, in fact, organize this with Zoom. All right, take care now.
Right, thank
Okay.
you.
Here,
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bye.
Bye.
So I'm gonna hang up, I guess. Wait a minute, let me